Hello, sweet grievers. Mandy here. Restorative Grief is all about creating easy access to healing, no matter where or who you are. That's why I want you to remember that if you want grief support beyond a podcast, then perhaps it's time to consider a one on one coaching connection. You don't have to implement all these grief strategies alone, you know? Use the link in the show notes to learn more at mandykpart.com/coaching or reach out to me on social media because I'm here for you, okay? Now let's get on to this week's episode. Welcome back to Restorative Grief with Mandy Capehart. You are listening to episode 141, titled Keep Moving Forward with Rich Ingram. When your entire life changes in the blink of an eye, the next steps may seem impossible. But today's guest is living proof that even in traumatic situations, there is great healing available in learning to embrace your story. Retired United States Army Captain Rich Ingram is a keynote speaker and endurance athlete. Despite losing his arm in combat, he intentionally pursued discomfort throughout the healing process to learn what it means to uncover a new sense of self, fully show up for oneself in loss, and invite others along for the journey. Hey everyone, welcome back to Restorative Grief with Mandy Capehart. I'm your host, Mandy, and today I'm really excited to bring you my guest. His name is Rich Ingram, and he is a retired United States Army captain. He's been working as a keynote speaker, and he is also an incredible endurance athlete, despite losing an arm in combat. And so I'm really was moved by his story and the way he shows up in his life. And so I'm just inspired and excited to bring this same inspirational story to you today. So, Rich, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Mandy.
Absolutely. I just want to dive into the immediacy of the fact that you lost your arm in combat and then turned around to become this endurance athlete and motivational speaker. The idea that you said, well, my life's not over, there's more I can do, feels good, but it also feels like one of those stories that someone would just plaster sticker on and say, see, life's not so bad. Even I can do it. I know that your approach to encouragement and as a speaker is so much richer than that. And so I just want to invite you to kind of pull the curtain back and have people come in and see who you actually are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's interesting that you say that because it's always easy to sit in the passenger seat and be a, Monday morning quarterback. The process is not simple for any of us that have undergone trauma or and we will always have it when we've gone through these traumatic events. It's not like we can just turn around and forget about them. And it took a long time for me to kind of figure things out as I undulated emotionally and kind of got to where I am now. And I'm still not out of the woods, right? But one thing that I feel that I have learned and continue to work on is the process to use these things as a catalyst for transformation in a positive manner. Right. And, when I lost my arm, I mean, I relied on my physical prowess for everything that I did. I found purpose in the military. So as a young, I'm a kid, I was 21. I had no idea what I wanted to do before then. So when that happened, it was like, wow, what do I do now? And it took me a while to figure out what I didn't want to do. Even after I got back out of the military the second time, I was like, okay, here I am. I guess I'll go to work for the civilian world. And then, I realized, okay, I don't want to do that. Opened up my own business and sold that. Figured out I didn't want to do that. And that's how I ended up being a motivational speaker. Is that I love motivating people. And I think that other people can find value in seeing other people's processes and learning from them. And so that's kind of how I arrived at the point I'm at now. And the great thing about being a speaker is not only that I get to chance to change other people's lives or communicate with them, but also keeps me in check. Because I can't go out and say, "Hey, try this, do this," and then I'm sitting here doing none of it. So it keeps me accountable to myself. Um, but yeah, it has been quite the journey of learning. of
Yeah.
learning, and I continue to process that.
You glazed over it for a minute there, so I just want to back up with your second career in the Army, because you started in the field, obviously, but then after your injury, you took it on yourself to create change in policy, correct?
That's right. No one had ever. So I was enlisted when I lost my arm, and was forced to retire. Right, like they gave me a check and said, saluted me and said, thank you for your service.
Right.
And one thing that was really a catalyst for my recovery was physical activity. I was asked to be on someone's triathlon team, and I thought I would either sink or swim in circles. And I figured, what did I have to lose, right? I was trying to regain my identity in the world, and as I did these things, my mindset shifted from what am I going to do now to whatever it takes. I'm going to keep moving forward. And in that process, I mean, look, it wasn't easy. I was a horrible swimmer, horrible. I mean, I was embarrassed every time I got in the pool, especially my college roommate. He had been a swimmer in high school. He was really good. And he and I would always go to the pool together. And I mean, he would just smoke me. He would lap me every time, but I kept showing up, kept showing up. And I started being able to compete against folks with four appendages. And I was like, if I can do this, why can't I go back in the military? And I was doing an internship with a state senator in Atlanta at the time, and he asked me, he's like, "What are you going to do after college?" And I was like, I'd really like to go back in the military. And he said, "All right, let's make it happen." So I had some help. Nothing ever happens, in a vacuum.
Totally.
And so I told him that what my aspirations were. I'd always wanted to be an officer. And so I found myself in front of a general that worked for President Bush in Washington D.C. with my senator. And he said, look, resubmit your packet, get back into ROTC, and we're gonna follow it and make sure, because the biggest thing is, if you can meet a standard, then who is anyone to tell you? That's the biggest thing about when they didn't let women in combat. Not going to get on that soapbox,
Different
but
conversation, however.
different conversation. But if you can meet a standard, who is anyone to tell you you can't go fight for your country,
Mm.
regardless of how many digits you have? I mean, look, and I was a huge proponent of that. I'm not saying they should have let everyone in with an arm and a missing an arm and a leg. There's a standard. You have to make sure what you're doing. Like, I went in as a combat engineer when I became an officer. I mean, I was messing around with explosives and everything else. So if I could not have done that safely, then I shouldn't have been there. And so fortunately I could. But throughout this process, there were a lot of ups and downs. I'd get called into an office, hey, Rich, we don't think this is going to happen. We would like you to stay in ROTC, obviously. And I just stuck with it. I just went with, so what have I got to lose? I can either deselect myself, or I can keep going and we'll see what happens. Just stay the course. And a week before I was going to commission and become, so when you graduate college and commission, it happens on the same day. And a week before this was going to happen, my buddy calls me and he's like, dude, why didn't you tell me that you were going to go back in? He was aide de camp to the general that had to sign the final waiver for me to get in. The cool part of this story that gives me chills every time I tell it, this is the same guy that asked me to be on his triathlon team back when I was in the hospital. So religion, energy, stars, whatever you want to call it, things aligned, and I had some help. But we didn't find out until the night before, Friday night. All my family was in town, and my sergeant major called me that night on Friday, and he said, "Hey, we got the paperwork. You're going to commission tomorrow." And I was just like, thank goodness. Otherwise, I was, looking to go to, I don't know, crunch numbers at Merrill Lynch or something like that. So that's the path. That's how it went down.
I love that. You said something too that I wanted to bring you back to as well. You said I was looking to regain my identity and figure out where I am in the world, who I am in the world. And that last piece about your college roommate being the one that invited you into triathlon, which is something you still do, but also that invited you into and then had the opportunity to like come alongside you at the end there to recommission. That type of alignment in your life comes for grievers when we're living in alignment with our values, right? When we recognize what matters here, what am I pursuing, why am I pursuing it, and I'm with you. I'm like, is it religion, is it the universe, is it energy, is it the trees, is it my good karma? None of the labels actually change the impact that we can have in our own lives when we identify what matters to us and what moves us forward. So how has that shown up for you and continued to keep bringing you into the next thing?
I will say that so one, these were two different guys. My college roommate
Oh,
was a different guy. So I ran an Army 10 miler, like still had bandages on my limb,
wow.
like a month after like right after I got my tubes out. I was like, I'm gonna do this. And so this guy walks in and he asked me to go strive. But my roommate, coincidentally, he's doing a 240-mile race in October, and I'm pacing him. So he and I are still best friends to stay. We're in each other's weddings. So one part of that is that people in your lives will make or break what you're trying to do. So it's not just making sure that you have the positive people around you, but it's also realizing when to cut the rope on the people that are bringing you down. And and sometimes they're hidden, right? You don't see it until you take a bird's eye view of what's holding you back. But for the longest time, especially being in the military, you're taught, you know, be hard, be strong. And Hollywood has always shown these movies of the lone soldier out there by himself doing this. And that couldn't be further from the truth, but it took me a while to figure that out, that that's what hard people are. And I wholeheartedly believe that it is your support network and the network that you create around you. And when you continue to go in the sphere, exactly what you're talking about, it's kind of like, I think it's called the reticular activating system, where you may have seen this person 10 times, but then when you're introduced to them, you're like, oh, hi, my name's Rich. Then you see him 10 times, you're like, I can't believe I just met this guy. I met him. Well, you actually, you're just now noticing him. But when we continue on these paths and we're you know staying our course, focusing, working towards something, and especially when we're positive about it, then I feel that we start to realize things that we otherwise never would. And that has to do with the mindset of really looking for opportunities in everything. One thing that I think we sometimes fall in the habit of, especially when we've gone through trauma, is this: it is easy to find the negative in things. It's easy to, cuss things, and it's okay to let those emotions go sometimes, but you can't let them run things. And so, um, you know, when I got out of the military, I was a problem solver. And so my job literally was to find problems and fix them. And after doing that for several years, I noticed that's all I'm doing in myself. But that's counterproductive as a human, to only look at our problems instead of looking at what is going right. How can I dig into those problems? Maybe they are real, but how can we turn them into catalysts for transformation instead of, I need to fix this? Well, you may not need to fix it. It's telling you something.
Mhm.
And so, we also have to be aware of what's going on there. So I know it's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but that's really what I think is: finding the people that you can surround yourself with and being open. I mean, we have created this society that people shun their stories, or they hide their stories because of what the cultural norm says people are going to shun them. Oh, I had this childhood trauma where my brother molested me or my father molested me, and there was no way out. And the only reason we don't talk about those things is because of, what people may think, that, or at least that's a large reason. But everybody, we're not alone in this. We're not alone, and our stories are relative. Our histories are relative. I lost my arm, so people see me and they say something, but you or anyone else, it may not be as noticeable, but it's the same. The pains that we go through. Why can't we talk about it? Because when you do, it creates this freedom that is just invigorating.
Yeah.
And so that is one of my wishes for the world, is that we could communicate those things with people. And when you find your sphere of, people that influence you and reciprocate that, it's just magical.
When there's so much trauma or loss, it's easy to be drawn into the messaging that says, change your mindset, change your life. And what you said about the people that you surround yourself with is so crucial, because we know that the people we are with all the time are the people we start to emulate, right? We like their jokes, we start telling similar jokes. We like the way they walk, we might start to look like them, right? In
Right.
little ways that don't seem to matter, but it truly is the grander ways. And if you've ever left a community of people, you realize, oh, I was really entrenched in acting a lot like them, or took on a lot of their values instead of remaining embodied in my own values, or even knowing what they were. And I
Right.
think for people who have been through loss and trauma, and even situations where they can't name their experience as a grief experience, there's this idea that they can change their mindset and change their life. If they just say, oh, well, they believed that and that was wrong for me then, it must be wrong for me now. When what we know to be true in neurobiology is that action is actually what changes the inner world. Action gives our nervous system new information, and then we make better choices for ourselves and we feel better long term. And so, all of that is to say, what you're describing is this idea that we could act vulnerably on our own stories, take action that is risky, and potentially completely experience a new life and a new story and a new um, understanding of the importance of our story and how all of it belongs.
Oh yeah, it's beautifully said. Yeah. I think for the individuals that have experienced traumatic events. So for me, for example, mine was immediate. Like I lost my arm, boom. Some other individuals may be going through these oppressive experiences over time. The end state is the same, but the timeline is different.
Yeah.
So for me, when I woke up being wheeled into a hospital room on a gurney and I rolled over and saw my arm, I mean, I I thought I lost everything. And one of the things I think that we sometimes do is identity and purpose are intertwined. And if we take a deep dive into who we really are and we figure that out, and we're always striving to be a better part of that, and to maintain that purpose, then we won't ever really lose our identity. So one of the easy examples I use, since I'm an athlete, I don't say I'm a runner because I'm one jacked up knee away from not being a runner. Because I learned that when I said my purpose is a soldier, well, I'm just one bomb away from not being a soldier anymore. And then my identity is lost. So, the way that I dig deep is I know that I'm a leader and I'm a motivator. Whether I become completely paralyzed or cannot do physical activities, can't get on a keynote stage, whatever it is, I will continue to lead and motivate. So at least I have that foundation to go back on. And so no matter the circles that I'm in or the environment that I'm in, I know that I have that. And therefore, the likelihood of me getting back into a trough in the fetal position on a couch is less, because I will always strive to be a better leader, to be a better motivator. And so, purpose is the true motivator. Willpower is only going to get you so far. It's just part it's a muscle in your brain, and every time you hit that gas pedal, it goes less. So when you're out of it and you think you're not cut out for it, or you bit off more than you can chew, you can't handle any more of the situation that you're in, the anxiety is just too much, and you start to shut down. Remember your purpose, and that's what's going to help drive you.
Rich, when in your journey between being enlisted, back to school, triathlon, moving forward, did you recognize, hey, my purpose has been tied to my, or my identity even has been attached to things that I do and not the values that motivate and move me toward the things that I do? How did you get to that connective tissue? Because I know that it's really, really scary to make that leap when you're in the middle of loss or when you're in the middle of a traumatic experience. Redefining how you see yourself and losing ourselves, like the secondary loss is common, our sense of self, because something has transitioned and we're becoming this new version. Uncovering that new self, that new experience takes a lot of courage. And in a lot of ways, we typically don't have a choice. We have to decide we're going to move
All
forward.
right.
But what is it that, what are some of the ways that you realized, oh, this will be worth it? I technically have a choice. I could totally give up. I could retreat back into this pain and remain trapped by the thoughts of what I've lost, or I could choose something different. How did you stay with yourself to keep moving into this new version?
So for me, I think there's multiple steps there, and probably for everyone, not just that easy. So one is when I was on the when I got into my hospital room back in the States, my mom had my fly fishing rod in the bedroom or in the hospital room. And of course, I'm thinking like, what am I? Because a fly fishing rod, it's not just as easy as like reeling it in. You have to pull the line, and I mean, you need
Yeah.
two hands for this deal. And I just kind of balked at it, but it was really her way of saying life doesn't have to change for you. And so my cousin took the fly rod with me to the front lawn of the hospital, and it wasn't long before I broke down in tears. And as a grown man, because one other thing that I identified with fly fishing had been taken away from me. And Lawrence came over, put his hand on me. He's like, "Dude, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep trying this." And so again, that support network. And so I kept going. I channeled just anger and frustration. And soon I realized I could strip the line with my teeth and cast, allowing the line to move through two of my fingers. Now, this is not a normal way of doing it, but it got the job done. And I was like, at that moment, I just remember looking at my arm and I was like, man, like everything changed from what am I going to do now to whatever it takes. I will keep moving forward. And so, even though my rehabilitation started really going in a positive manner, I was still all over the place. I was trying all these new things. The one constant in my life has always been in physical activity towards an ambitious target, and what that ambitious target is, a race, an Ironman, whatever it may be. And so that's what really kept me, I would say, alive, because I was still all over. I wanted the military badly, but at the same time, it was a process. And when you are involved in physical activity like that, and not just like, oh, I run a couple miles every day, or I walk 30 minutes every day, but no, you have a goal. Now I have to work towards this goal. And right now, I mean, you run a lot, so you have to wake up every day and be intentional. I have a family. I have to do all that, so it keeps you out of trouble. One, you're not dwelling, on your sorrows and what's going wrong with you. You're thinking about the things that are going right and how you can grow. So physical activity was a huge part of that. But on the other side of it, I didn't have a defined purpose. Even when I went back into the military, I started seeing myself as a soldier again. And when I got out and I was a leader in a Fortune 500 company, I I didn't know anything. I was working 14-hour days,
Mm,
because I didn't know any better. That
yeah.
was just what it was. I got out, started my own business. I put everything I had into that. I would say up until 5 years ago, I didn't really start looking at, okay, why am I not happy here? And, because you can our parents, the folks that were raised in the 50s and 60s are just famous for saying, hey, you put in the work and it's gonna happen. That's not the case. We need to take a look at ourselves. Why am I not happy? Until I started saying that and started looking at what is my purpose and what is going to make me happy,
Mhm.
I bounced around. And again, I say I was like a supernova, just with all this energy. I didn't know where to focus it. And now I feel like I want to give that message so no one else has to lose an arm to figure it out. Like, hey, we have to take a pause. And if what you're doing is not making you happy, then we need to make a change, because there's no point in living the short life without happiness.
It's so beautifully said. That transition from fixed mindset into growth mindset is a lot of what you're describing, right? This ability to
Right.
say, okay, I can be here now and just accept what's true and stay in what's true, or I can choose something risky and attach that word yet. I'm not back in the military yet. I'm not living in my full purpose yet, and stay really honest with yourself. And I think that goes to the circle of people around you as well, but that also goes to that willingness within to again risk what is true now for what could be possible tomorrow.
That's absolutely right. And that growth mindset for me, that happened. That started to happen on the front lawn of that hospital.
Mhm.
And I tell the story about, after I agreed to be on the triathlon team, and Dave Roselle asked me to do it. So the first thing that I did was I went and bought a Speedo. And so I buy the Speedo, and I'm not a, if I've had a few beers, I might be okay wearing a Speedo, but I'm the opposite of that when I'm not. And so I'm in this triathlon store, and they had all these little, man panties, I call them, hanging up. I'm like, man, okay. I I found one that fit my waist, but my butt was just eating this thing. And then there was another one that fit me in the bottom, but it was a little big in my waist. Now you try these things on naked, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, which one do I choose? I couldn't put the one back on where my butt was eating it, because I felt bad for the next guy that would have to try it on. So I ended up buying that, and so it wouldn't fall off in the pool. So I show up to the pool, and I'm embarrassed. I get down on, like, and another reason why I'm embarrassed is because the only lane that's open is the one where they like take out a rope, and there's the 110-year-olds that are doing their pool noodle exercises.
Mhm.
So I'm not in the lane where I think I should be, where I know I really shouldn't be. With all the guys that are really swimming, I'm in this lane with the pool noodles, and I sit on the edge of the pool with my gym shorts on, and looking around, slide my gym shorts off, and hop in before anybody can see me in the Speedo. So embarrassing. And I take off. I can't get to that halfway point of the pool without busting into a breaststroke. How am I going to be able to swim a mile? Had that same experience occurred with two arms, I wouldn't have done it. I was good at working out, running, soldiering, and all those things.
Mm.
Now I was in this new, reinventing myself. I kept going, and I kept showing up every day in that Speedo. And before I knew it, I was no longer in the double lane with the pool noodles. I was swimming against able-bodied people. No one was waiting on me at the stop sign. That took months when I was cycling. It was so embarrassing I wasn't used to that, having everybody to wait, but I kept showing up. I kept showing up. I knew that I wanted to get better.
Mm.
And before I knew it, I was being sent across America to do these races. And, you know, what it all comes down to is I kept pursuing discomfort. And in that discomfort, because I knew that I had a goal and an ambitious target to get there, and the only way that I was going to get there was by pursuing discomfort and doing things that I knew would transform me. And through that discomfort, I transformed. And so it's not just about the physical part of it, but it's doing things that we're embarrassed to do, like, and that's the whole reason why I tell the Speedo story, because it was so uncomfortable. And And I'll tell you this story. I was doing a race in San Francisco. It was a relay race. And so, meaning that we had a swimmer, I was a cyclist, and there was a runner. So I wasn't doing all of them. And it was in San Francisco. It's called Escape from Alcatraz. And the swimmers get out on a boat and they're taken out to the prison. They jump off and they swim inland. I'm in the transition area waiting for my swimmer to come in. She comes in, she crushes the swim. I hop on my bike and I start to go out transition. I've just flown across America from Atlanta. My brake cable snapped as I'm going out of the transition area, and my heart just drops. The volunteer at transition looks at me like, dude, what are you gonna do? And I just look, I was like, I didn't come out here to sit. I mean, my swimmer just crushed the swim. My runner's counting on me so he can start because he can't even start if I don't finish.
Right.
And so I took off without any breaks. And I ended up beating 30 professionals. And I say that not to toot my own horn, but I say that because literally, if we look at that metaphor, I transformed my cycling abilities because I jumped without a parachute. I learned more about what I could do at fast speeds and turns and downhills than I ever would have because had I had brakes. And from that point on, I was catapulted into a different level because of that experience. And I was scared. The entire time I was scared. I had to use my toes and my shoes to brake. They had holes in them. And my runner did great. And we actually, I don't remember what place we came. We did really well. And but the whole point of that is we have to get uncomfortable and we have to take our brakes off if we truly want to transform and get better.
Mm. And you didn't leave your story behind in doing that, right? You knew exactly who you were when you showed up, and you showed up with your full self in that moment. You didn't say, well, I can become who I need to be because that's what this moment demands, in a weird, like, I can just pretend I'm not my self with my body here and its own capabilities, right? You said,
Like an
I
existential.
yeah, like you just were very present. And I think that that's what I mean. You weren't overthinking it. You weren't going into the space of like, well, if I choose to quit now, what is that going to cause? Do you know? I think that's what we
Oh,
do.
absolutely. It's just part of the process.
Yeah.
And and I think like you know, unless I'm missing what you're saying, what I kind of look at is all of these pains and gains that we go through and the way that we feel, how we anxiety or depression can hit us. We have to train ourselves to realize that the pains and gains are equitable and all part of the journey. And the biggest part of that is we cannot let what we might label as a negative emotion, like anxiety, which I do not think it's a negative emotion. I think that all of our emotions are telling something. We cannot let those opportunities pass. We can use them as a catalyst for transformation by really just, and I use a composition notebook. Whenever I'm feeling that way, and it's like, man, okay, I'll write down exactly what I'm feeling. Step two is why am I feeling this way? And then the three is like, okay, what am I doing right now that can either confirm or, maybe there's some other things that I could be doing to get, to the next level that I'm trying to get to. But in that third step, I write down what am I doing right now? More likely, more often than not, it's okay, I'm following my plan and I'm doing the things I need to do to hit this objective and continue showing up positively. Okay, all right, this is just part of the process. Or another thing that you just identified is, okay, there are a couple other things that I can be doing. So now I just shifted my plan, and then some affirmations right there, like I am this, I am that, and it works 100% of the time. But when you realize that those pains and gains and the way that you're feeling are part of the journey, it makes it so much easier, and you don't get stuck in that trough of just walking around like, oh my god, why do I feel this way? Let me take one of those little footballs that the psychiatrist says I should take, um which is a totally different conversation as well. But anyways, yeah, so it's the process. And you get used to it, you kind of fall into just keep going, keep moving forward.
It's why we talk a lot about targets in my work instead of goals.
Mm.
Because often we will say, oh, I missed the goal. I mean, think of a football field, right? The goalpost, or I'm a soccer coach. So the soccer goal, we missed a lot of goals this weekend. We made a lot of goals, but there was no room for gray space, right? Either the ball goes in or the ball doesn't go in. And with targets, think archery. When we're aiming, we make adjustments for what changes in the wind, how we're feeling, if our arms are tired, if we have a different bow than we're used to. But we can also make adjustments once we see where we've landed. Because yes, we're aiming for center, but center isn't only the only option here. There are other opportunities to get closer to a target or to adjust and say, wow, we were really aiming from behind a boulder. I don't think that was so wise. Who told us to stay behind this boulder, right? Going back to your people around you, who is bringing you some awareness, who is saying like, yeah, girl, you don't have any arrows in your quiver. So I'm not sure why you're trying archery right now. There's that awareness that we can lean into when we finally become really honest. But there's no way to do that in isolation or when we are feeling so overwhelmed by the big emotions and by the grief and by the losses or by the what ifs or the things that didn't come to pass.
Yeah, I mean, oh, that's I love how you put that. One of my friends, he another one armed guy that's been one of my mentors throughout the triathlon. He's older than I am, so just full of experience. And when I was asking, like, man, how do I get better at swimming? He's like, Rich, you one, you just get out there and go. Two, you ask everyone that you can what they're doing, and you either try and emulate it or whatever, but you ask for feedback from everyone. And I think it's, going back to one thing that you said, living in the past. I think it's I mean, life is about everything that we do is about yin and yang. But you don't want to live in the past, but you don't want to live in the future either, because that's dangerous. Like, you're always working to get somewhere else. Like, dude, set your target and then live in the present. You already and you will get there. That's why my mantra is just like, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. You live in the present, you will get there. You stay the course, and it will happen. And guess what? If it doesn't happen, who cares? Maybe you set the goal wrong. Just start over. It's a short life. It's just, but that's one thing that I've learned, especially having children, is that I have three small children, and often I'm like, oh my gosh, hurry up, do this, hurry up, do that. And before you know it, it's like, wow, what happened to the day? I feel like all I was doing was rushing them out the door instead of being intentional and loving with my time that I have with them.
Mhm.
So anyways, this is kind of tangential, but that has taught me a lot too about living in the present.
Yeah. Rich, you have given so much insight and wisdom today. Is there anything else you want to share as a last thought?
Yeah, the only other thing that I really am an advocate of is something that I've term challenge immersion. And that is, finding something that you really enjoy, and having a target to get there. And this isn't just something that you can do once a day. So for example, running for me, like, I have a big race in August, and I immerse myself in training for that. And that's, how I show up positively and maintain my emotional stability and my emotional threshold, because every day I'm growing towards that target. So I don't give myself time to sulk. And when those things do come up, I give them attention. But I would say to anyone, to, coming through a grief stage, is identify that thing that you love, and turn it into some sort of challenge that you have to execute on daily to grow, to get there. Like a video game, you're getting, higher points every day that you get to it. And when you do that, you'll notice your positivity transforming. And again, you don't ever forget where you came from, because it puts you where you are. But at the same time, you don't allow it to take over who you are either. So, and keep moving forward.
I love it. Rich, thank you so much for spending time with me this morning and sharing your story and your inspiration. If you are interested in getting in touch with Rich or learning more about his work, you can go to richingram.com. And of course, we'll have it in the show notes. But I'm just so grateful that you are out in the world making an impact. Thank you for showing up for yourself and for the rest of us, Rich.
Thanks, Mandy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to episode 141 of Restorative Grief. I imagine there are a lot of people who might hear Rich's story and say something about how it must be nice to have friends and family who show up in the hospital in the low moments, or to have advocates inside the places he wants to belong and people who will help open the doors for him. And if that's you, I want you to pause, because with those thoughts, you might be missing one of the most important things that Rich shared. The choice to invite and pursue discomfort is the reason that all of those friends and family around him were able to partner with him toward his own success. Simply being with people isn't the way we transform our present situation. Being with people who inspire us to try new things and to push through our limits gives us permission to take risks. If you're wondering how you can experience this kind of circle in your life, the workbook for this week's episode has great insights on where to begin, because identifying the people who will keep you growing and healing is necessary. If this is your first time listening, thank you for being here. You can learn more about restorative grief at mandykpart.com, and the links for Rich's work are in the show notes as well. Please remember to leave a review and subscribe to the show so you won't miss any weekly episodes. And before we go, as always, one last thing. Please remember, the only solution for grief is to do the work of grieving. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week.